10 spine-chilling encounters from haunted Appalachian cemeteries, terrifying secrets exposed. Cassie wiped down the counter at the diner, the flickering lights overhead barely holding on to their glow. Shadows danced on the walls, like ghosts preparing for a show. She could hear the regulars gossiping about the cemetery just outside of town, their voices low and conspiratorial. "You'd best be careful out there," one said, a chill creeping into his tone. "Them spirits don't take kindly to trespassers." Cassie could only roll her eyes. It was all just stories, right? But something in her gut twisted as she thought of Tyler, her 15-year-old son, who'd been hanging around with those boys from school. She shook her head, dismissing her worries. He'd never go out there, but she was wrong. As night fell, the autumn moon hung low, casting eerie shadows across the streets. It was then that Cassie got the call. "Mom, we're in the cemetery." Tyler's voice crackled with excitement, but she could also hear the undercurrent of something else: fear. "Tyler! Get home right now." Panic clawed at her throat. She could feel the warmth of the diner around her, but dread spiraled within her like smoke from an extinguished fire. "We're just checking it out. Chill." He hung up, leaving her reeling. The hum of chatter felt suffocating now, laughter ringing just a bit too high, the food orders blurring into a background hum. Tension thickened the air, her senses sharp. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of a figure in the corner booth, an older man draped in shadows, nursing a drink slowly. His gaze was heavy, almost predatory, marking her like prey. As he leaned back, he spoke, "You know about the dead men out there, don't you? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Cassie's heart raced, matching the frantic beat of her thoughts. Who did this man think he was? The cemetery loomed heavy in her mind, filled with old wives' tales and chilling stories. What secrets did this man know? As footsteps echoed in the diner, she felt the ground beneath her shake. Something was wrong, bone-chilling wrong. She glanced out the window, and there they were. Little flickering shadows darting between the trees, whispering dark promises. Meanwhile, Tyler and his friends pushed deeper into that cursed ground, tales of buried souls compelling them forward. They stumbled upon crooked headstones and ethereal whispers. "Did you hear that?" One boy stuttered, panic creeping in. Tyler's bravado splintered. The stories of restless spirits burned into their minds now morphed into reality. As the night closed in, an unearthly howl sliced through the air, freezing their blood. Back at the diner, Cassie's instinct screamed. She took a step toward the door, feeling a fist tighten in her chest. Then came the scream. High-pitched, full of terror. Tyler was calling out, only it wasn't his voice anymore, it was something else, something that shouldn't belong. Cassie dashed outside, breathless, her legs carrying her toward the cemetery, each heartbeat pounding like a war drum in her ears. The moon snickered down as fog draped over the ground. Secrets awakened, and with every step, Cassie feared she might unveil a darkness that could swallow them both whole. What if she was too late? The crunch of leaves underfoot echoed in the stillness as Cassie sprinted toward the cemetery, fear mapping her every step. The fog curled around her ankles, pulling at her like a thick, cold blanket. Each breath burned her lungs, a painful reminder of the urgency wrapped around her heart. "Tyler!" she shouted, the sound swallowed by the night. No response. Only the rustling of wind through the branches and distant echoes of laughter from her son's friends. What could they possibly be doing? The thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. She stumbled onto the cemetery grounds, and the atmosphere shifted instantly, thickening like a heavy fog. The moon shone bright overhead, lighting up the twisted trees, their limbs clawing at the sky. Tombstones jutted from the ground, ancient and foreboding, their inscriptions barely legible. Cassie's fingers brushed against one as she rushed by, the cold stone sending a shiver through her body. Tyler. Panic twisted in her throat, choking her words. Then it came again, the scream. It was unmistakable. A cry fueled by terror, echoing through the silent cemetery. She turned, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, desperate to find her son. Her heart raced, a wild animal trapped in a cage of bone. Mom! That voice again, was it really him? It rang out from deeper within the cemetery, a sound laced with urgency. She bolted towards it, the ground uneven beneath her shoes, roots clutching at her ankles as if the earth sought to keep her away. Darkness closed in tighter, the trees forming a wall around her, obscuring her vision. She could feel the pull of something behind her, a hot breath whispering promises of despair. She turned quickly, the sensation chilling her to the core, but only the skeletal branches answered her. No one was there, but she felt them, watchers, shadows writhing just out of sight. Come on, where are you? Cassie's voice cracked, fear weighing heavily on her, dragging her down. The whispering intensified, words brushing her eardrums, dripping with malice. She pressed forward, pushing through the chill that wrapped around her body. You shouldn't have come here, a soft voice teased from behind. An icy shiver ran down her spine as she spun around. Standing at the edge of a grave was the old man from the diner, his hollow eyes now glowing faintly in the dark. The stories, they're true, he murmured, a grotesque smile creeping across his face. And now it's too late for your boy. With a sudden jolt, Cassie surged forward, fear electrifying her limbs. Let him go. She screamed, yet a sense of dread unfurled within her like a dark flower. A rustling caught her attention. It came from behind a cluster of tombstones, where shadows danced erratically. Cassie moved closer, heart racing and voice trembling. Tyler? The laughter that burst forth now was sinister, echoing off the stones, twisting like a blade in her chest. Suddenly, the fog thickened, obscuring everything but the chilling resonance of the guttural sounds. It felt as though the graveyards were coming alive, each headstone bearing witness to her torment. Mom! Tyler's voice broke through, frantic. Help! But it was too late. Something dark shifted in the mist, something that looked like a twisted version of her son. The entity slashed through the fog, eyes ablaze with fear and desperation. As Cassie propelled herself forward, the air thickened, resistance ripping at her skin. The shadows shrieked overhead, a cacophonous warning, drowning out everything. She stumbled but caught herself just in time. If she didn't reach him, the darkness stretched out before her, a gaping maw, and every step felt like a challenge she might not win. Would she pull Tyler back from the abyss, or would the grave claim them both? In her mind, a haunting thought lingered. What if the cemetery wasn't simply haunted? What if it was alive? Cassie's breath came in ragged gasps, each inhalation echoing in the suffocating silence of the graveyard. She could barely see through the haze of fog that twisted and twirled like ghosts dancing on the breeze. Tyler. The name left her lips, hoarse and desperate, swallowing the unsettling laughter that still echoed around her. It felt like the whole cemetery was jeering at her, mocking her fear, and deepening her anxiety. The darker silhouette ahead, a twisted version of her son, took a half step back, its movements jerky and unnatural. Mom! It cried again. But this time, there was something in the pitch, a sickening distortion that made her stomach knot. Cassie's heart raced. Stay where you are. She shouted, but the urge to move closer overpowered her caution. Her instincts battled against the terror creeping up her spine. With each step toward the shadow, the air grew heavier. The fog was no longer just an obstacle, it felt alive, wrapping around her limbs like a serpent. She fought against it, almost weaving through the tendrils, her focus set only on that fading outline. Help! Tyler's voice spiraled, slipping deeper into a dark pit of despair. The sob caught at the back of her throat. "Hold on!" she yelled, digging her nails into the damp earth as she pressed forward. "I'm coming." The dark figure became clearer, but something twisted inside her as its features morphed. It bore the shape of Tyler, but the expression was wrong, eyes wide, yet devoid of warmth. The mouth twisted into a grin, sharp and jagged like a predator. "Mom," it said through teeth that shouldn't belong to her son. A crackle of hysteria gripped her. "No. This isn't you." Suddenly, the fog burst apart into swirling wisps, revealing the skeletal forms of tombstones and the unnerving shadows of trees that seemed to leer down at her. She could hear a rustling, something shifting just beyond her sight, the graveyard feasting on her fears. "You should have stayed away." The old man from the diner drifted forward, emerging from the darkness. His grin deepened, and his eyes glowed as if lit from within. "They always come looking, don't they?" The world around Cassie blurred. "Get away from him!" she screamed, blood thundering in her ears, rage and fear colliding. For a fleeting second, she considered turning and running. But the thought of leaving Tyler, of that thing taking him, made her stomach churn. "I can't let you take him." Her words felt meaningless, swallowed by the haunting laughter surrounding her. With resolve building within her, Cassie rushed forward, her heart pounding out a frantic rhythm. She reached for the twisted figure that claimed to be her son. The moment their hands brushed, an electric shock coursed through her, slamming her with the force of 1,000 nightmares. Pain swirled in the thing's eyes as it recoiled, and for a moment, Cassie caught a glimpse of something, her Tyler inside the veil, trapped and clawing to break free. "Mom!" His voice captured her heart, but the darkness pressed against them, forcing her back, ripping them apart. The shadows writhed, pulling and tearing, and as she fought against them, she felt a crack. The ground beneath her trembled ominously. "Run!" A voice yelled somewhere in the chaos, but she couldn't abandon him. And then the temperature dropped. An icy grip wrapped around her throat. The very soil beneath her seemed alive, reaching up to entwine her legs, solidifying into roots that felt cursed. The air vibrated with a chilling chant, an echo of despair rising from the graves. "Help!" Tyler cried again, his shadow morphing in the fog, twisting into countless shapes. Shadows flickered ominously, whispering dark promises of abandonment and grief. Cassie's pulse thundered in her ears as she dug her heels into the earth, searching for a shred of hope or a thread that would pull them back together. What if the dark growl was true? What if it was too late? Before she could gather her thoughts, a terrible rift opened in the fog. The night twisted, and figures began to emerge from the dark, their hollow eyes fixed on Cassie. And the wretched echo of her son's voice. "Not everyone leaves." They were coming for her, the dead yearning for the living. The ground shook again, and hope fled from her grasp. Could she reach Tyler before the cemetery claimed both their souls? Her breath hitched in her throat, hammering against the pulse of terror. Would she be able to save him, or would the night consume them both in its wicked embrace? The fog thickened, wrapping around Cassie like a tomb of despair. She could barely breathe, the air laden with an oppressive weight. Shadows twisted and flickered, and every rustle felt like a whisper, a taunt from the grave. "Tyler!" She screamed again, her voice a desperate plea against the encroaching darkness. Panic clawed at her gut as her eyes darted to the figures emerging from the mist, their hollow stares fixated on her, hungry and relentless. The things they used to be, people she could have known, loved, none of that mattered now. Their faces were pale, features worn by time and torment, mouths stretching into grotesque smiles that chilled her to the bone. They began to shuffle forward, a fractured parade of the damned. "Stay back!" Cassie yelled, trying to back away, but the roots from the ground twisted tighter, constricting her legs and pulling her down. She was anchored by fear now, the weight of the graveyard dragging her deeper into shadows that whispered her name. The mocking laughter of the old man echoed again, circling her like a predator sizing up its prey. "They always return," he cackled, his eyes gleaming with sinister knowledge. And you are just another lost soul. No. Cassie shouted, struggling against the grip of the earth. I want to become like them. Tyler needs me. Her heart beat wildly, an erratic drum against the deafening silence that wrapped around her. Mom. The call pierced through the laughter, a glimmer of hope cutting through the thick fog. Tyler's figure shimmered and flickered, a beacon in the encroaching dark. Yet, that too seemed to distort, the edges of his form trembling, flickering between the boy she knew and the emotional horror in front of her. Each step he took was a falter, and it brought a slithering dread into her heart. Cassie, the thing that was her son, called out, its voice a haunting whisper covered in static. Help me, I'm trying. She cried, tears blurring her vision. The darkness closed in, shadows blending into a turbulent mass. The graveyard roared and cracked like thunder, pushing every unspeakable fear into the forefront of her mind. Suddenly, something sharp nicked at her ankle, and she glanced down, horrified. A skeletal hand clawed at her skin, the flesh of its owner long gone, leaving only bone and ghostly whispers that made her blood run cold. She kicked, breaking free, but it didn't matter. More hands reached from the soil, grasping at her, dragging her into their depths. No! Cassie screamed, fighting against the vine-like tendrils that betokened death. With every ounce of strength, she pulled herself forward, inching away from the grasping hands. Tyler. I'm here. His voice was louder now, desperation rising. He reached for her, arms stretching through the gathering fog, and in that moment, she could see his fear, his pain. Please, Mom. Cassie lunged forward, and as their hands met again, an electric shock ignited between them. But something was very wrong. The vibrant energy crackled differently this time, resonating with despair and fury. She was fighting the world to save him, yet the darkness tightened its hold, a cruel puzzle refusing to let them go. Let him go. She shouted, and the shadows around her momentarily recoiled, writhing like snakes desperately trying to escape an explosion. A howl ripped through the fog, echoing despair and rage that sent chills down her spine. As the shadows staggered, Cassie suddenly found strength. With a fierce pull, she stepped closer to the familiar outline of her son, pushing through the countering forces wrapping around them. But would it be enough? Mom! Tyler cried again, and Cassie was torn between hope and panic. Would stepping into the dark lead to freedom, or deeper despair? Just as she thought they would break free, the ground ripped apart beneath her, a gaping maw opening wide to consume them both. She felt the pull of the abyss, gravity seizing hold. In that moment of terror, panic boiled inside her. As the earth yawned open, Cassie seized Tyler's hand tighter. Hold on. But doubt swept over her like a tidal wave. What if she failed? The ground trembled violently, and every scream drowned beneath the cacophony of their crashing world. As they teetered on the edge, a menacing whisper echoed in her mind, not all who enter will return. What came next would decide their fate, life or death, hope or despair. Would Cassie find a way to keep her son alive, or would the darkness become their eternal prison? Cassie felt the earth give way, her fingers clutching Tyler's hand with a desperation that threatened to crush the life out of him. The chilling winds howled around them, eager to rush through the gaping mouth of the abyss, hungry to swallow them whole. Mom! Don't let go! Tyler screamed, his voice raw with terror. She couldn't tell if the ground was pulling him away or if it was just her tightening grip that suffocated his words. The void below was a swirling mass of darkness. Faces flickered in and out, whispering secrets of death and despair. Cassie could feel them reaching for her as if sensing her weakness, clawing at her heart and mind. They taunted her, seductive voices slithering through the fog, promising her everything if only she would surrender. Give in, Cassie, they hissed. Join us. Become one with the night. No! She roared, shaking her head violently, her body straining against the pull of despair. I want. I will not give in. With a furious might, she pulled Tyler closer, feeling the warmth of his small hand, grounding her in that moment. "We've got this, Ty. Just hold on." But with each second that passed, the shadows encroached, creeping closer with insidious intent. The earth churned beneath her, relentless like a beast awakening from slumber. She could hear it now, the sound of laughter cold and haunting, echoing with the old man's cackle, entwining her heart with fear. "Help me, please," Tyler begged, panic rising in his voice. "I'm trying." Cassie's voice wavered, choked by a sob rising in her throat. The more she fought, the more the ground shifted, each push fueling the darkness. It was like trying to swim against an unyielding tide, and the mournful wails grew louder, maddening. Space warped, a grotesque show of skeletal hands and mournful faces, those she lost yet longed to embrace, their eyes forever pleading for release. Each second felt like an eternity. She couldn't tell if it was the pull of the abyss or her own fears dragging her down. "Mom!" Tyler's voice flickered again, desperate and raw. She could see him, really see him, struggling against the shadows that claimed her son. The grotesque figures were almost on them now, their spectral bodies writhing, tangling like so many snakes ensnaring a lamb. More voices mixed into a choking chorus, each note striking terror into her bones. "You cannot save him!" They cried in unison, the weight of their words pressing her down even further. "No!" Cassie shouted back. She summoned every ounce of strength she had left. "I won't let you take him. Not today." With a fierce cry, she pulled. The ground shook violently, and for a split second, the darkness hesitated. It felt like the rope holding them was fraying, nearing its breaking point. She twisted in a frantic dance, swinging Tyler towards her, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. "Grab the branch!" she shouted, spotting a gnarled, crooked limb extending near them from an ancient tree. Tyler's eyes widened in terror, and for a moment, she saw doubt flicker across his face. "Can't we just stay?" he pleaded, voice trembling against the chaos around them. "No!" Cassie yelled, raw desperation flooding her heart. "We fight. We fight together." In one swift motion, she shoved Tyler's hand toward the branch, praying he would take hold. The air thickened with dread, every moment stretching painfully long as the darkness clawed ferociously at their legs, determined to recapture what was stolen. Tyler reached for it, fingers grazing the rough bark just as the shadows surged forward, a surge of black fury gearing up to claim its next victim. Blue eyes locked onto each other, and for a heartbeat, time stood still, caught in the suffocating grip of uncertainty. Would he grab it? Would they break free? Or were they doomed to be lost to the shadows forever? The branch trembled. The shadows roared. And then silenced. In that moment, the world held its breath, waiting for the decision that would carve their fates into everlasting darkness or fleeting light. Would she be able to pull him from the brink, or would the night claim them? Both? As the abyss rumbled beneath them, Cassie could feel her heart racing, teetering on the edge of an ending that promised only despair. And in the stillness that followed, everything hung in the balance. Cassie's world jolted back to life with a jarring shock. The gnarled branch creaked, splintering under the weight of her hopes. Tyler's fingers barely grazed it, slipping away like water between her palms. The shadows surged again, a relentless tide that sought to drag them further into their wretched realm. A guttural moan escaped her lips as she felt the ground beneath them buckle. "Tyler!" She twisted, clutching his wrist as tightly as she could. The darkness roared, longing to claim him, and yet she held firm, refusing to let go. Suddenly, out of the oppressive silence, a sharp scream pierced the air. It was Tyler. His terror wrapped around her like a vice. "Mom! Please! I won't leave you!" Cassie shouted, pouring every ounce of conviction into her voice, desperately trying to shield him from the encroaching shadows. His small frame quivered, and in that moment, something shifted in the blackness. It was alive, pulsing with an insatiable hunger. "Pull! Another primal scream erupted from Cassie's throat. She yanked with every fiber of her being. Time warped, each second felt like an eternity, and the night shrieked around them, mocking her efforts. The branch groaned again, straining against the darkness. Tyler's grip faltered. "I can't," he whimpered, his strength wavering, the shadows twisted, surrounding them like a funeral shroud. "Give in," they murmured, their voices dripping with malice. "He will not make it. Embrace the dark." "No." Cassie screamed, shaking her head violently. The seductive pull of despair was a lie. With a sudden surge of emotion, Cassie leaned back, bracing herself against the shifting ground as she pulled with all her might. And then, amidst the chaos, she felt a spark of resistance in Tyler's fingers. He was reaching for the branch again, his small hand closing around its rough surface, strength rekindled by sheer will. "Grab it, Tyler. Hold on." Tyler's eyes flickered with fear and determination. They were locked in this savage dance, staring into the abyss, a place where hope fought desperately against doom. Cassie felt a raw pulse of connection, a thread woven tightly between their hearts that a crashing wave of darkness surged. It lashed against them, howling like a pack of wolves, but Cassie wouldn't relent. She gritted her teeth, seizing the moment, twisting her body to create a firm anchor against the strain. "Now!" That one simple word echoed around them, bouncing off the walls of despair. With a final, desperate heave, Cassie lunged. For a breathless instant, they were weightless, suspended in the chaotic thrall of unknown fate. Then, she felt it, a jolt as Tyler's tiny body swung, jerking her back from the edge. They landed hard on solid ground, their limbs entwined as a whirlwind of shadows screamed and flailed around them, desperate to reclaim what had almost been lost. Cassie gasped for air, bewildered, still holding tight to her son. "Are we safe?" Tyler's voice quivered, wide eyes darting around for any sign of the looming shadows. I don't know," Cassie stammered, her heart hammering wildly against her ribcage. But as she looked around, the darkness had receded, leaving only the chill of a hollow night. But then, just beyond the tree's desolate embrace, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A figure emerged, pale and gaunt, standing at the edge of the woods. The cold glint of eyes stared at them, a smile lurking, sharp as the knife edge of a grin. "What have you brought back?" It hissed, the words slithering through the silence like a serpent. The shadows writhed around it, taut with anticipation. Cassie stiffened, her heartbeat thrumming louder than ever. What had they awakened? Tyler pulled back, pressing into her side, both of them frozen in fear as the figure stepped closer. What now? The night was far from over and darkness had its own plans. Cassie's breath quickened as the figure slithered forward, its elongated limbs casting grotesque shadows that danced across the ground. The night hung thick with dread, every rustle of leaves sounding like a death sentence. "Mom," Tyler whispered, his voice barely rising above the wind. He clutched the hem of her shirt, fingers trembling like autumn leaves ready to fall. The creature's lips curled into a smile that promised nothing but malice. "You've crossed into my domain, little ones. What will you do now?" It leaned closer, its eyes glinting with a sinister hunger that made Cassie's skin crawl. The shadows murmured in response, a churning mass, their whispers seeping into her thoughts. "You should have stayed away," they taunted, echoing the nightmares that had haunted her since childhood. Cassie had heard stories of this malevolent being that preyed upon the lost souls wandering the haunted woods. They hadn't believed it then, but standing here now, the terror felt real, raw, undeniable. "Stay back!" Cassie shouted, summoning all her courage, clutching Tyler closer. The cold seeped deeper into her bones, but she wouldn't allow fear to consume her. The figure laughed, a sound that curled around her like smoke. "Oh, but you're just getting started, dear Cassie." Its voice was smooth, inviting yet dripping with an undercurrent of horror. "The darkness craves, it always craves." Cassie's mind raced, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. "We'll find a way out. We didn't come here for you," she cried, glancing at the encroaching shadows, praying they could still retreat. Didn't he? You pulled your precious one back from the brink, the figure said, its tone a blend of mockery and intrigue. Did you think that would be enough? Each word spun a web of dread around her. Let him go. Cassie spat, a surge of protective rage igniting within her. For every flicker of terror that flickered in her heart, she felt the heat of determination rise. She had come too far to let this thing take Tyler away. The figure paused, tilting its head as if considering her. You wish to fight? It strutted sideways, the shadows elongating around it like tendrils, stretching toward them with grotesque eagerness. Cassie tightened her grip on Tyler, her mind racing for a plan. The stories had hinted at a way to dispel such evils if only she could remember the words. She searched her memories desperately, trying to grasp at the faint outlines of hope. Yet just as a thought began to coalesce, the creature lunged forward, a blur of motion. Tyler shrieked, the sound piercing the night, ripping through Cassie's resolve. She instinctively shoved him behind her, her instincts taking over as she prepared for the worst. The creature's face twisted, eyes alight with glee as it closed the distance. Then, from the depths of her fear, something within Cassie ignited. A glimmer of an incantation she had heard in hushed tones came rushing back. No. You're not taking him. She growled, forcing the words out, her voice breaking through the night. But what were the words? Cassie was flooded with doubt, her heart racing as the figure's features warped in anticipation. Seconds stretched like years, breaths caught in their throats. Suddenly, silence enveloped them, the shadows recoiling as if awaiting her command. The figure faltered, confusion taking over its malicious grin. Say it. It hissed, flailing against the unseen barrier of her growing strength, and everything froze. Cassie's heart thundered, she felt the weight of every shadow pressing against her, ready to tear her apart if she faltered. Would she find the courage to finish what was started? Tell me, Cassie, will you let darkness consume you? The question hung in the air like a blade poised to drop. As the tension erupted around them, Cassie's vision blurred with fear and the looming threat of despair. Time stood still, while the whispers beckoned, promising her son would be safe if only she would surrender. Her thoughts raced, on the brink of a decision. Would she step into the darkness, or battle the malevolence lurking under the pale moonlight? Moments hung like fog, heavy and suffocating. What now? The silence only deepened the shadows and darkness crept closer. Cassie's breath came in ragged gasps, each heartbeat a drum signaling impending doom. The shadows twisted at the edges of her vision, a black tide of despair inching ever closer. You can't have him, she shouted, clinging to Tyler with all her might. His small body trembled against her, grounding her in the swirling chaos around them. Brave words for a mother whose thoughts are lost in the dark, the figure sneered. It twisted its fingers, long and bony, the nails sharp like shards of glass. With each flicker of movement, the shadows danced wildly, beckoning Cassie with promises of power if she surrendered her son. She could feel their desperate pull, whispering dark desires to abandon all hope. No! Cassie cried, her voice steadying as a flicker of resolve sparked within. The incantation hovered just out of reach, taunting her like a memory drifting beyond her grasp. I want to let you win. Win? Oh, sweet Cassie, this is not a game, the creature purred, its voice a sickly sweet poison. This is mere survival. You may not fight against what you do not understand. The shadows hissed, a multitude of voices blending into one, spiraling up around her like the smoke from a dying fire. Join us, Cassie. Let your fear consume you, allow it to merge with the darkness. You know you want to. Cassie shook her head fiercely, casting her thoughts back to the stories of the old woman who had warned of the entity lurking in these woods. There's a way to send you back, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, but she felt its weight. Ah, the bated breath of desperation, the figure mocked, inching closer still, its skin shimmering like oil against water. Tell me, what will you sacrifice? A flash of anger ignited in Cassie's chest. I won't sacrifice anything. I'll protect my son. The moment stretched as their eyes locked, her fury contrasting the creature's twisted delight. Tyler squeezed her hand. Mom, what do we do? His wide eyes were pools of terror that mirrored her own. She dared to glance above the moon loomed large, a pale eye watching their struggle. The light, she whispered, half to herself, half to Tyler. If she could call upon its power, maybe she could reverse the evil. Remembering the old woman's words, her mind raced. The light binds shadows. The laughter from the twisted figure shattered her thoughts, a cacophony of horror. What a futile notion. Do you believe a mere whisper can withstand my darkness? It lunged again, faster this time, its long limbs stretching toward them. As Cassie braced for impact, she felt the air crackling with energy. Silently, a surge of courage sparked deep within. In the name of light, I command you to be gone. The words burst forth, a primal scream that shattered the silence, echoing off the trees. The figure halted, eyes wide with an unexpected fury. No! You dare to push me back? The shadows twisted violently. Cassie closed her eyes, drawing strength from her love for Tyler, envisioning a barrier of light surrounding them. The cold seeped into her skin, gnawing at her resolve, but she didn't falter. When Cassie opened her eyes, the world around them pulsed. A radiant light blazed forth from her core, bright and unyielding. For a moment, the shadows recoiled in pain. Yet, the creature only laughed, its laughter shrill and desperate, battling against the light. Oh, you think this can stop me? It screeched, eyes blazing with fury. You will regret this, fool. Just as the light began to ripple through the gathering darkness, the creature surged forward one last time. Cassie's heart stopped. The shadows coiled around them, sucking the warmth from her body. But, in a moment of clarity, she remembered the final words. Please, just let us go. She begged, her voice trembling, both a plea and a command. Even as she spoke, she felt the barriers weaken. The creature's eyes flared with insatiable hunger. For a split second, everything felt like a tightrope walk on the edge of oblivion. Stay with me, Cassie, the shadows hissed, closing in, and then, without warning, the light exploded, illuminating everything. A radiant flash that shattered the night with a blinding intensity, but just as quickly as it had come, the light flickered, casting a long shadow in its wake. Cassie's world was swallowed whole, leaving only whispers of what had just occurred. Desperation curdled in her stomach as she clutched Tyler, urging him to stay close. Mom? Where are we? Tyler's voice was small, lost in the deepening gloom. Cassie squinted into the darkness, the creature's laughter still haunting her ears. We have to keep moving, she stammered, but doubt began to seep in. Had they escaped? Or were they deeper in the monster's trap? There was no time to question. Night consumed them again, and once more, they were not alone. The darkness had a heartbeat, and it was growing closer. What would the shadows demand from them next? The air thickened, prickling against Cassie's skin as they stumbled through the void. Tyler tugged at her sleeve, his small fingers trembling. Mom, I don't like this. Me neither, sweetheart, she whispered, forcing strength into her voice. But as she looked around, all she could see were shadows swelling and swirling, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to watch from the fringes. Don't let go of my hand, she urged, gripping Tyler tightly. The darkness felt alive, shifting around them, and the laughter of that creature echoed in her mind, taunting, cruel. She could feel it lurking somewhere, just beyond the reach of their fading light. Without warning, a chill gust swept through the trees, the leaves rustling in a haunting melody that spoke of despair. A shiver coursed down her spine. This way, she said, leading Tyler toward a flickering glimmer in the distance, a vague promise of hope. As they moved, the shadows pulsed, and Cassie felt the oppressive darkness clawing at her thoughts, sowing seeds of doubt. What if they were running in circles? Was the light truly gone? The thought clenched her heart, squeezing it like a vice. "Keep your eyes closed, Tyler," she instructed, hoping he wouldn't look at the shapes darting just out of view. They felt like eyes, hungry and expectant. "Don't open them until I say so." A sob escaped his lips. "But what if no?" Cassie cut him off, her heart pounding harder. "Just trust me." As she pressed forward, an unseen pressure seemed to thicken the air. Every whisper of wind felt like a breath of something sinister. But there, just ahead, was that flicker again, a faint glimmer of moonlight breaking through the oppressive canopy. "We're almost there," Cassie said, her voice steadying. But before they could reach the light, the ground beneath them trembled, pulsating like the beating heart of some slumbering beast. Suddenly, the laughter erupted anew, echoing across the night, reverberating through the trees. "What is this? You think you can escape?" it mocked, weaving through the air like a snake. The shadows surged forward, a wave of darkness that cast aside any light. Cassie felt her breath hitch as the temperature dropped, her skin prickling with an icy dread. She clenched Tyler's hand tighter, her mind racing. "Hold on!" Cassie shouted as she pulled him to her side, their bodies pressed together. The flickering light they had been running toward was devoured in an instant, leaving them engulfed in shadows thick enough to suffocate. "Mom, I'm scared." Tyler whimpered, his voice breaking. The shadows whispered back, a cacophony of dark promises. "Give in, little one. We can take away your fears, just let go." "No." Cassie shouted, panic igniting in her chest. The entity's voice slithered into her thoughts, planting doubt, stirring up fear. "You won't take him." In an instant, the world around them reverberated with a long howl, like a banshee lamenting her despair. A chilling wind howled, forcing Cassie to shield Tyler with her body as she crouched low. And then, just as unexpectedly, fingers cold and leathery snaked around her ankle, yanking her down. Cassie gasped, her breath escaping as she fought to keep her grip on Tyler. A guttural growl echoed. The shadows began to swirl faster, coiling around her. Panic-stricken, she dug her nails into the earth, forcing herself to remain anchored. "Tyler, don't let go. Whatever happens, stay with me." But when she looked up, she saw him already being pulled away, the shadows enveloping him. "Mom!" he cried, his voice hauntingly distant. "Tyler!" The scream tore from her throat as she lunged forward, but the darkness wrapped itself around her, sucking her into a frigid abyss. "Let him go!" Cassie screamed as she struggled against the grasp of the shadows that gushed harder, binding her tighter. "I want to let you take him." The world spun, and she could no longer tell if she was standing or drifting. Desperation clawed at her throat. With one last effort fueled by love, she unleashed a cry that rang out into the endless murk. "In the name of light, I command you to release him." But the shadows only laughed louder, as if mocking her resolve. The howling intensified, melding with her cries. Just as her strength threatened to ebb away, she heard Tyler's voice, small yet powerful. "Mom! I believe in you." And with that, a new swell of determination surged through Cassie, but the darkness seemed relentless, and the shadows only snarled, "You will crush yourself beneath our weight." What would be the price of her defiance, she wondered. And then, in that breathless moment, a new reality began to flicker on the edges of the dread, something dark yet compelling, pulling them deeper into the abyss. What darkness awaited them next? Cassie's heart thundered in her chest, the pulse a desperate reminder that time was slipping away. She could feel it, that suffocating weight of the shadows pressing down on them, clawing for Tyler. "Never, you hear me?" she shouted into the swirling darkness, clenching her fists tighter around the cold, damp earth. "I'll fight for him till my last breath." The shadows writhed, seemingly shaken by her defiance. A chorus of sinister laughter echoed back, every inflection a cruel taunt, and for a brief, terrifying moment, Cassie felt doubt's icy grip around her heart. But then, Tyler's voice broke through, clear and strong despite the cacophony. Mom, I know you can do it. The spark of hope reignited something deep within her. She felt it, a flickering flame of love and determination, and she clung to it. Pushing the darkness away, she shouted, "In the name of light, I command you to let him go." With every word that left her lips, the darkness wavered, shadows retreating as if stung. Cassie could feel the pull on Tyler ease, and in that moment, his face appeared in the frantic darkness, fearful yet resolute. "Mom, I'm right here." His voice surged with a warm pull, reminding her that they were still connected, still fighting together. "Grab my hand." Cassie yelled, determination surging as she stretched toward him, every fiber of her being channeling that electric energy they shared. As they reached for each other, the shadows writhed, shrieking in anguish, forcing her words forward with a raw power she didn't know she had. Then, the earth beneath them shuddered, and she felt the air shift, a heavy tension snapping like a taut string. "Light binds shadows," came the whisper of an old woman's voice from her past, echoing in her mind. She could see it, a blinding light blooming within her, ready to burst forth like dawn chasing away darkness. The shadows recoiled, massing around them. But this time, Cassie didn't step back. Instead, she surged forward, and with a deafening roar, she cast forth the light from deep within her core. "Begone!" she cried, summoning every bit of her love, the ancient stories that warned of darkness, and her fierce resolve to protect her son. An explosion of clarity shattered the night. The shadows fractured, swirling like leaves in a storm, released from her piercing light. In that blinding radiance, Cassie locked eyes with Tyler, and for a heartbeat, she felt the boundaries dividing them vanish. "Together!" Tyler shouted, and in unison, they clasped hands tightly, pouring all their hope into an unbreakable bond. The energy between them crackled, growing stronger with each heartbeat, each breath. It surged through their intertwined fingers like a lifeline, pulling them back from the abyss. Finally, the shadows shrieked as they were swept away, banished to depths they longed to remain in. Around them, a luminous barrier formed, and when the last wisp of darkness evaporated, the world felt lighter, air clear, the oppressive weight gone. Cassie stood, breathless and wide-eyed, keeping her grasp firm on Tyler. They stumbled, then fell into each other, arms wrapped around one another in a roaring embrace that signified their shared victory. "Mom, we did it!" Tyler laughed, the sound ringing like music in the air. "Yes!" Cassie gasped, tears welling in her eyes. They had fought back the darkness together, defied its pull. But as she glanced around at the now ghostly quiet cemetery, she sensed they were not yet free. And the unease unfurled within her as she turned and caught sight of the gaunt figure still lingering among the trees, its smile sharper than before. "You may have won today, but darkness is patient," it taunted, its voice trailing off into the chilling wind, a reminder that their victory may not last forever. Cassie's heart thudded. The creature had not forgotten them. And maybe, just maybe, some shadows never truly left. "Let us get out of here," Cassie urged, grabbing Tyler's hand. They turned together, leaving the whispered promises of the cemetery behind. As they navigated the twisted paths and forgotten graves, the autumn air felt different, crisp and alive, carrying the weight of their narrow escape. They could still feel the echoes of that night, the whispers that still danced in the corners of their minds, but they moved forward, united, determined to face whatever came next. "Together, Mom," Tyler said, squeezing her hand, eyes shining with fierce resolve. "Always together." And together they returned toward the light of the diner, toward the warmth of home where they could banish the night from their hearts. Their encounter with darkness had left deep marks, but those marks became stories, lessons etched into their memories, stories they would share to warn others, to honor the ghosts of the past while firmly staying in the present, intertwined forever by the bond that only love could create. As the weary sun began to rise, spreading its golden hues across the horizon, Cassie and Tyler stepped back into the world, knowing they would carry these shadows with them, but they would never step into the dark alone again. Don't let this story end here. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive tales that could chill your bones. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us know you want more stories like this. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what the future holds for Cassie and Tyler. It's your time to shine. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Join the family.